Welcome to another installment of our guest speaker series by MoonshotJr, where we're committed to transforming curious minds. Today we have with us Hetal Sonpal, who is a dynamic and accomplished business leader with over more than 21 years of experience in the tech industry. He is also a startup evangelist, and he has worked with Wipro, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and Intel before in Asia. And today we'll be talking about building a startup mindset, which is really important if you are in the Innovator program, because that's how you get started with having a business or selling a product. And before I hand over the session today to Hetal, so I'll be talking about the offerings of the Innovator program before I hand over the session to him. So, with a vision of transforming curious minds, we at MoonshotJr aspire to empower young innovators to explore entrepreneurship and innovation and provide them with a unique product development experience. And the Innovator program follows a STEAM-based curriculum through and through, starting from ideating a product to understanding what kind of resources going into making that product, and then eventually launching that product on e-commerce platforms. This is the journey that you go through. It is very interactive and it's outcome driven. And right now we're available in 13 countries and counting. And we focus on combining science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship skills throughout the Innovator program. At MoonshotJr, apart from our other product offerings, these group sessions are organized to spark your interest in various STEAM-based topics like AI, robotics, arts, design, and well, today it happens to be entrepreneurship. Just a couple of instructions before we get started. If you have any questions, if you want to say something, please click on the raise hand icon that you see in the bottom bar of your Zoom window. And you can open up the chat. You can post your responses there, ask your questions over there. If you want to type out your question, you can use the Q&A tab. And finally, if you want to ask your question verbally, we can have you unmute your mic, so you'll have to give permission for that. Also, just so you know, we're recording this session, so you can access it later on our website at www.moonshotjr.com/webinars. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I will hand it over to you now, Hetal.
Hey, thanks a lot, Meir. And hello, students. Thanks a lot for joining for this session. It's a privilege for me to be talking to you, to young and bright minds like you. Thanks a lot for enlisting for Moonshot Junior. I think you've taken the first and most important step as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. This is a great opportunity for you to be able to get your skills in place as far as tech entrepreneurship is concerned. And when I was approached from a session perspective, I was dabbling on the various topics which could be a possibility. And then I decided to pick up two words, startup and mindset, and I decided to combine them together. So that's where we are. Building a startup mindset is the topic of the discussion today. Before I dwell deeper into the topic, I have a small personal story to share. This is the year 1997. This is after I'd finished my engineering. I did not have a job on campus, so I was technically jobless. I decided to, and I was not discouraged because I was planning to do further studies, right? So I was planning to go for a master's course in the US. I'm born and brought up in India, by the way. So I was planning to do a master's course in the US in the technology stream. At the same time, I was planning to do an MBA in India, right? So I was applying to various schools and colleges. So I needed time for that anyway. But my friend suggested that, hey, why do you want to sit at home? Why don't you go and apply for a job? So I went to the city of Bangalore, and my friend's sister worked in Wipro. So I went and met her and I said, look, I'm looking for a job. So she gave me a simple process. She told me that you can appear for a written test. If you clear the written test, there would be a round of interviews to be done. And if you clear the interviews, then the job is yours. And I was like, that sounds good. I appeared for the written test, went back. I was staying with a few friends in Bangalore. And the next day morning, I decided to apply for a few more jobs. I went to a few different companies and applied and, submitted my resume and said, I'm looking for a job. And they said, we'll let you know once, there's a vacancy which comes up. The third day, I opened the newspaper and I came across an advertisement from a job consultant. The job consultant said that if you are interested in a job, you can come over. So I go to the office of the consultant. I knock on the door. An old gentleman opens the door and he says, "Oh yeah, yeah, you come in. You had called me, right?" I said, "Yeah." So I sit down and I'm waiting for my turn. There is another gentleman sitting next to me, and just started doing some loose talk. "Oh, you're also looking for a job? Yeah, man. How long it's been for you?" "It's been 6 months." I said, "Okay." And how's it been so far? Been pretty tough, So I've been applying at various companies. People don't respond. I'm really have good qualifications. I'm a really good engineer, but I'm not got a job. And then when he was sitting, he crossed his legs, and when he crossed his legs, I could see the bottom of his soul had a hole, and I was a little scared. I was like 6 months of job hunting, and this is what it does to you. And it's been just 6 days for me. I was really scared. I was really worried. I was really anxious in terms of what lied in store for me from a joblessness perspective. The next day morning, I got a call from Wipro. They called me over for the interview, and I went super confident. I did not want to remain jobless anymore. I gave the interviews really well, got through. 11 years with Wipro, 21 years in corporate life. But I still remember that day. I still remember where I started from. I believe that that's where my roots were. And I think that emphasizes the importance of being humble, of being grounded. And I think that's very important from a career perspective for all of you, right? Don't forget the roots where you come from. Don't forget your parents. Don't forget the amount of effort which your parents have put in to get you where you are. Dream big, stay hungry, stay foolish, and stay humble. I think that's the message which I wanted to start with. Before I proceed into the presentation, I have a small video which I'd like to play for you guys.
Was a big dreamer, and so my job was to clean these 7 floors between Friday and Sunday. So every time I would go to the 7th floor was the CEO's office. So I would bust in like I was the CEO. I'm dreaming like I'm the CEO now. And who would have ever thought? I've been blessed. And here I am. I am the CEO of my own company.
Well, I think that the number one thing is you have to have a very clear vision, a very clear goal of where you want to go, because only then you will get there. You can have the best airplane or the best ship in the world, but if the captain doesn't know where to go, he will just drift around. If the pilot does not know where to go, he will just drift around with his plane. So I think the key thing is that we know where we're going and that you're very passionate about that. That you see it always in front of you, the goal.
To thrive in whatever you do, please understand your terrain. Know what your target is. Don't guess it. Be as clued up as the next man, because that's your petrol. That's your fuel to get you moving. If you don't know where you're going, what your targets are, you're never going to get there. Period.
The other thing that's important is that you got to shoot for the top. You got to go and really have big goals and think big, because then you're going to get big. Then you're going to go and achieve big things. That is the most important thing. We don't achieve big things by accident.
I have to tell each and every one of you that it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, your age, you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. And I always say, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
If you think that you're going to go and accomplish something really special and be the best in anything in the world, and you think you can do it without working, you make a big mistake. Because no matter what I did, if it was in bodybuilding or in acting or if it was in the Olympic arena, it always took a lot of work. And you got to put out and you got to, something make a lot of sacrifices. Notice, if you're not willing to work hard, forget about it.
I truly believe we are all equal human beings. If we are obsessed with something and we truly pursue our passion with everything we have, regardless of anything else, if you are obsessed, work hard, put in the time, you will succeed. And that is a philosophy that I carry, my coaches carry. And to see LeBron James, who's like a mega superstar over here and a phenomenal athlete, share that belief is inspiring right back to me. It shows that we are thinking correct. You know, this is hard work. This is an obsession. Nothing can beat hard work.
This here is the reality? Do you mean that the competition is not the reality?
Listen, the work is behind the scenes. Competition is the easy part. Behind the scenes is where the work is done. And everything is done to get to that one race that you need to run.
I always questioned myself in the best of times, even when I was world number one for many weeks and months in a row. At certain times during the year, I said, what can I improve? What do I need to change? Because if you don't do anything or you just do the same thing over and over again, you stay the same. And staying the same means going backwards because the other guys are working hard and improving. So I always needed to find ways to improve my game as well.
Watch a lot of young people sort of meander around without any idea about why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, to want and to be ambitious and to want to be successful is not enough.
So I hope the intent of this video has come across very well to you. The intent is for you guys to dream big, work hard, stay focused, and get inspired by the people you saw in the video. Inspiration, having a dream, having a goal or a mission is the starting point. Since we are talking about technology, since we are talking about entrepreneurship, I thought it's very important when you talk about startup mindset to be able to get our definitions right. So what's a startup all about, right? We keep hearing the word startup. Many of you are come across various startups. So I thought it's good to take up from a definition perspective. What's a startup, right? A startup is a young company founded by one or more entrepreneurs to develop a unique product or service and bring it to market. That's as simple as that, right? From a definition perspective. By its nature, the typical startup tends to be a shoestring operation with initial funding or from the founders or from their friends or family, right? So let's look at the keywords here, right? It's a young company, right? So anything which you are creating from scratch, some of you might have, run a lemonade stall, or some of you might have made cookies during school days and distributed or sold some of those cookies for a charity. All those were startups. Yeah, it's just that you didn't continue them, right? So they were a young company from a definition of a startup perspective. It's just that you didn't carry on and make it much older. That's okay, because you had other priorities, right? You had your studies, you had your school, your homework, your assignments to complete. So you didn't continue further, right? You were not opening up that lemonade stand every day for the entire year or for the entire month for that matter, right? You opened it for a short period of time. You had objective of collecting some funds, raising some funds for charity, and you did it and you closed it. But if you continue it further, it can very much be a startup, right? Then you can have chain of lemonade stands opening up across different cities, across different parts of the city. Then you start providing some food along with the lemonade, and and before you know it, you actually have created a retail brand as well, right? A young company. So we are all very clear that a startup is a young company founded by one or more entrepreneurs. If there is just one entrepreneur, they call it a solopreneur. That means there's just one founder. There are not multiple co-founders. But it's ideal that whenever you configure or decide to run a startup, you should have more than one founder so that you can discuss, you can collaborate, you can share your ideas, you can support each other, right? When one person is down, the other one is high. The one who's high is obviously helping the other guy out, and we are discussing it out, and it's always useful. To develop a unique product or service you could either be building a product or you could be delivering a service. Both of them qualify as a startup, right? So let's say you decide to develop a new bottle of soda, right? You come up with a unique bottle of soda, and it's got a unique flavor. It's got a tangy flavor, which is more liked by children. And then you say, I'm going to start this branded soda bottle, which is for kids only, right? So that's a product you're building, right? You build the product and you market it, right? That's simple as that, right? You go to the nearby departmental store, and then you say, hey, can you sell these soda bottles? I made them. So any kids coming to your store, if they are asking, if the kid wants to have a soda, then you can say this is a soda just for kids, and you could have that, right? That's a product. Or it's a service, right? You are helping you're helping school kids from commute from the nearest bus stop to their home, right? It's a last mile delivery or a small delivery. So you build an eco-friendly caddy car, a small car, which runs on short distances, maybe a mile or 2 miles, from the bus stop to the home of the child, and it drops all the child to their house from the bus stop. That's a service, right? So you could either be building a product or a service and taking it to market, right? You introduce that product or service to the customers. By its nature, the typical startup tends to be a shoestring operation. When we say a shoestring operation, it means there is a small and a limited budget, which the founder or the co-founder have chipped in. You could start with $1,000, $500, $100, depending on whatever your startup is. It's called a bootstrap, right? That's the initial amount which is put in. It's called a bootstrap operation, that founders have found some money and they've decided to put in that money into the business. And obviously, intent of putting money in the business is for the money to grow, right? You put in $1,000, and at some point of time, you're able to generate $2,000. You put in $2,000, you're able to generate $4,000, and so on, right? The money will grow. That's the whole intent, that you want to make money out of it, right? That's the reason you're making a business. With the initial funding from the founders or from their friends or family, right? You could also collaborate. You could go to your dad or your mom and, okay, I'm going to start a startup. My piggy bank only has $500. I need another $500. Can you loan me that money? I'll give it back to you once I make money. I can give it back to you, right? So that's a soft loan. It's an understanding with your friends and family that you are very confident about a business and an idea, and you can make money out of it. So they will say, okay, I will give you. Dad says $250, mom says $250, and with your own $500, you have $1,000 as a startup capital, right? So that's the definition of a startup. Now, what's mindset all about? I don't know how many of you are familiar with the word mindset, but let me help you with the definition. It's a way of thinking. In a word, it's a mental inclination or disposition or a frame of mind. So when you're in the class, your mindset is to study. When you're out in the playground, your mindset is to play. But these are short-term mindset, right? But mindset can be slightly longer duration as well, right? You're positively oriented. That's a mindset. You're negatively oriented. That's a mindset. Your mindset is your collection of thoughts and beliefs that shape your thought habits. And if this collection of thoughts and habits are oriented towards one particular goal or an achievement, I want to be a cricketer, or I want to be a basketball player. So you're having a sports mindset, right? You're oriented towards sports. You are athletic by nature. You love to be fit. You are inspired by major athletes, and you want to become like one of them. And you got a sporty mindset. You're inspired by Albert Einstein. You're inspired by the founders of Google or Microsoft or Amazon, for that matter. We're going to create a new company, or we're going to build a new product. Then you have the entrepreneurial mindset or a startup mindset. And your thought habits affect how you think, what you feel, and what you do. So once you dawn the mindset that I'm an entrepreneur, then you start looking a scope for entrepreneurship in everything. You think about lemonade stand, you say, I'm going to start selling cookies. You say, I'm going to start providing food and shelter to people. You say that I'm going to build a sleeping bag for the homeless people. In everything, you start looking for an idea. You start looking for an idea which could be built into a business, right? And by the way, a small break. Any of you who have questions, Please put your questions in the chat window. Mihir would be collating those questions and pointing them out to me whenever there are questions coming up. I would like to address the questions as I'm speaking, because sometimes you think about a question while you hear something, and you want that answer. Otherwise, you kind of get stuck going further as well. So feel free to drop in the questions, and once there is a question which is relevant, I'll be more than glad to answer that right away. But yeah, at the end of the session as well, of course, we can keep up the questions as well. Yeah, Mihir, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so students, if you have any questions right now would be the time to put it in chat or raise your hand. Anything you want to ask him about startups or whatever we have discussed so far, you can either type your questions in chat, or you can click on the raise hand icon and ask him yourself. So,
and remember, students, there's nothing called a dumb or a stupid question. Every question is important to the person who's asking and the person who's listening. So feel free, don't feel shy. I would be more than glad to answer whatever the question, however simple or however difficult it is. So your thought habits affect how you think, what you feel, and what you do. Your mindset impacts how you make sense of the world and how you make sense of you. Now we know what's a startup. Now we know what's a mindset. Combine them together, and what's a startup mindset all about? A startup mindset, if I take a step back and I tell you about the journey which I talked about in the beginning of the session, right? I spoke about my own journey of being jobless and wanting to look for a job. Now you guys are going to school, you are studying, you're learning. Once you finish school, then you go to college. And once you finish college, what's the next step? You need to find a job. Either you find a job or you create a job. You create a job for yourself. When you create a job for yourself, which is you run your own company, you're creating more jobs for other people as well. So you're taking up a lot of responsibility. So the $1 million question for you is, are you more inclined towards a job, whether you want to work in a company, or whether you would want to run your own company, whether you would want to become an entrepreneur, you would want to have your own startup, you would like to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, or you'd like to be the next Larry Page, or you'd like to be the next Bill Gates? Are you driven by that? Does that motivate you? Does that sense of ownership come in you? Are you the person who keeps coming up with ideas all the time of creating something from scratch? Whether you are or you're not, either ways, a startup mindset is important. You will say, sir, I'm going to work in Microsoft. I plan to do engineering and I want to take up a job as an engineer in Microsoft. Maybe I'll spend a few years in Microsoft. If I don't like it, maybe I'll go to Google, or I'll go to Amazon, or I'll go to eBay. There are many companies which need engineers, and I want to be an engineer. I don't want to take a chance of being coming up with a business and an idea and then looking for funding and then creating a whole company. And what if the company shuts down? All my money goes away, my piggy bank. I've saved that money for so long, and if I put that money in my business and the business doesn't start, then what do I do? Is that a good idea or not? I don't want to do that.
So,
well, I think the sad news here is that even if you want to do a job.
Yeah, I was just going to add something. I was saying that let's do a quick survey. So can you put it in chat whether you want to do a job, or do you want to own your own company and run your own company and make your own job? So go ahead and type it in chat. I kind of want to see what the most common responses are.
Great question, Mihir. I think we should definitely find out how many are the budding Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg sitting in this group, listening to me quietly and saying, "I know better. I know something more about entrepreneurship. I'm already becoming one."
Yeah. Come on, students. I see some of you are replying on chat. I want everyone to type in chat whether you want to work in a regular job for a company, or you want to start your own company and create your own job.
Yeah, great. So I think continue chipping in with your answers. I think that's what I was coming to, right? Even if you want to do a job yourself, you need to have a startup mindset. And a startup mindset basically says that you look for an opportunity to differentiate. You look for an opportunity to innovate. You look for an opportunity to own in each and every activity which you come across, right? So if you're an engineer, your job is to do a code. You need to write code, or maybe you need to design, you write a design document, or you need to make a project plan. In all these activities, if you have a startup mindset, you will not just be following orders. What you will be doing, you'll be trying to build your own idea around the code. You will go back to your manager and say, "Sir, I don't think this is a good idea. I think we need to change the design a little bit. I think we need to change the UI UX a little bit." The boss will look up at you, "You're just a fresh engineer, man. What are you telling me?" "No, no, sir, I have an idea." "Okay, let's hear it. Let's understand what idea you have and why you think this UI UX is wrong and why I need to change that." Now, this is a conversation which is possible where an engineer with a startup mindset has the ability to go to his manager and say, "Sir, this is wrong. Just because you're giving me an order to write this line of code, I don't want to write it. I want to bring in more my own suggestions, which can further improve this design." Now that's a few years down the line when you're actually doing a job. You guys are students, right? You attend school, you have class, you have homework. Your parents give you tasks. Your mother says, "Hey, help me in the kitchen," or "Why don't you go and water the plants in the garden?" Your dad says, "Hey, why don't you help me with filling up this form? Why don't you go to the neighbors and get me so and so stuff? Can you write me this letter which I need to draft and send it out?" Every small task, whether it is for you or whether it's for someone else, is an opportunity to be a startup. It's an opportunity for you to be an entrepreneur. The entrepreneurship starts at home. Being a startup starts when you're a school kid, and when you start changing your mindset towards looking for an opportunity in every act. So let's take the example where your mother has asked you to water the plants in the garden, and you had 30 minutes of time with you. Whether you try to optimize the amount of time you're spending, whether you try to see whether if you could create an automated system which could water the plants, right? In Israel, the idea had originated about drip irrigation. What drip irrigation does is it makes sure that there is not even a drop of water which is wasted at the time of watering the plants. Sounds very interesting, but the idea here is by creating a pipe which connects all the plants with specific holes at the point where the plant is, so that the water goes directly from the pipe to the plant. It doesn't get spread all around. It just goes to that plant. So you're minimizing the amount of water which is being wasted, right? So that's a simple example, right? You could actually create a drip irrigation kind of a system where the water is being passed on from the pipe to the plant directly, and it is watering the plant, and the water is not being wasted. So just by switching on the tap, all the plants are being watered right away, and you have created a smart system of watering the plants, right? That's a great idea. Similarly, if your father asks you to, let's say, do the household finances, right? He says, "Let's calculate how much money we are spending towards food, how much are we spending towards vegetables, how much we spending towards fruits, how much are we spending towards bakery products, and let's try and optimize our spend. Let's try and see, where's the bulk of the spend going? Can we make it better? Can we find different sources from where we get the bread? And we might be able to get bread from a better source. We might pay a lower price. We are not compromising on the quality of the food, and yet we are able to get a better bread for lower price." Well, technically, that might sound difficult, right? How can you get higher quality at lower price? Well, that's where the difference can come in, right? If you decide to look in your neighborhood, find all the bakery stores which are supplying bread, call them up and ask them, what's the price of the bread? How many types of bread are you providing? And if I sign up on a subscription service, will you be able to give me a discount? The vendor who's providing the bread is very interested. Subscription for bread? Really? Is that possible? Well, I need a fresh pack of bread every 4 days. So on every 4 day, if you supply me a bread, and I'm willing to pay you for the whole month. So in the month, I would probably need 7 or 8 packs of bread. And if I guarantee that I'm going to buy 7 or 8 packs of bread from you in the whole month, can you offer me a discount? And the bakery seller is thinking, wow, that's great. He's ensuring that I am able to predict that this person or this household will be requiring 7 to 8 packs of bread in the whole month. And he's willing to pay me in advance. That's guaranteed salary, guaranteed income for me. And he says, yes, we will offer you 10 to 15% discount. And suddenly you realize that you created an opportunity where you could actually look at a subscription model, not only for bread, you could also look for vegetables, you could also look for fruits, and for any other daily essential item which your household requires. So what started as a menial task from your father or from your dad, it has actually become an opportunity for you to become an entrepreneur. You suddenly realize that the subscription model of food can actually be a great win-win for both you as a consumer and for the bakery store or the vegetable store from a supplier perspective, because the bakery or the supplier would be happy if there is a demand which can be predicted. Your father would be happy if by promising certain quantity of the essential item, which is the bakery and the fruit and the vegetables, if he can get a discount, he would be willing to pay up front. And that becomes an advantage because the store is sure that you're going to buy. There could be some terms and conditions in place that in case on the 20th of the month you decide to go for a short vacation for a week or 10 days, and you cannot buy that bread or that vegetable which you had promised, the store will roll over that money and use it for the subscription for the next month, and you can continue the arrangement. So that becomes a way for ensuring that not only this model continues even if you go on a vacation, but you're accounting for variances which would come in. And if this model works for you, it would work for the house next door and the house next door and so on. And very soon you realize that you actually started a small business where you have lined up 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 households in the neighborhood with the 4 or 5 stores, bakery stores and vegetable and fruit stores. And you created a subscription model which is used by all the households and the stores. And everyone, it's a win-win for everyone, right? So I just shared two great examples. One is where a task was assigned by your mother, other would be a task assigned by your father, and how a startup mindset can actually help you to convert that task which would have been a very boring activity, and you have to like every day go and water the plants, and early in the morning you wake up and your eyes are not open as yet completely, and your mom is going to plants. Late in the evening when you're done with your homework and you are hoping to watch some TV, and your father comes and says, hey, come on, help me with the finances. It's actually become an exciting activity which you not only like, but you're actually able to help your dad and mom to reduce expenses, and maybe in turn are able to increase the household savings. It's a great initiative, right? So those were two examples I wanted to share from a startup mindset perspective. Now let's see why this becomes more important. So going on to the next slide, why is startup mindset important? It's a way of life. So what's happening is, if I just go back on the job scenario where you're actually working in a Microsoft or a Google as an engineer, these companies have realized that they want every employee to have a entrepreneurial mindset or a startup mindset. They want the individual to take up ownership of his job and say, I'm not here just to do this job. I'm here to see how can I create a startup opportunity from this job. And why are they doing that? Because a lot of engineers leave these large companies to start their own startup. And the company is like, hold on. If you want to make a startup, you have a great idea, make it right here. I want to see you, whether you have that ability to become an entrepreneur, whether you can run a startup. Don't leave your job. Spend 20% of your time in the day towards your idea or the business which you have. Let me see whether you're able to grow it or not. And if you are able to come up with that idea and the business and convert it, I will pay you money to make the startup. I'll invest in your startup. The employees are very happy. I don't need to leave my job. I don't need to take the risk of not having a salary, and I can actually put my idea into practice and maybe build a business around it. If I fail, I still have my job, and if I succeed, the company is actually putting in money and helping me to grow. And at some point of time, if I feel the money which I can actually make from my startup is far more than what I get in my job as an engineer, I will switch. I'll become a full-time entrepreneur. So large companies are encouraging that. It's a way of life in large companies, right? And I described to you how it is a way of life at home, right? How it can actually make a very boring task of watering a plant become a very efficient business model for drip irrigation, or how a boring task of your father asking with accounts and in the daily expenses actually became a great business model for subscription of food, right? It sets clear expectations from oneself. By having a startup mindset, you are attaching meaning to every activity you're doing. And you think 10 times, why am I doing it? I'm very good at music. I've got a great playlist. A lot of friends ask me for that playlist. They're like, hey, Hetal, I like that playlist which you have for rock numbers. Can I borrow that playlist? Yeah, sure. You share the link of the playlist, and your friend also is playing the same songs which you were playing, and he didn't pay a dime for that. He's your friend after all, right? But what if there were 100, there were 1,000, or maybe 10,000 other kids who like your playlist? And maybe it's not just one playlist, maybe you have 20 playlists. It could actually be a business model. So next time when you're listening to your set of songs, why don't you start sharing with your friends and getting their opinion? Hey, do you like my collection of songs? Does it keep you motivated? Does it keep you energized? What I mean, do you listen to that very often? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's cool. Do you think others would like it? Maybe you can try that. So there you have it. You start sharing your playlist with 4 or 5 other kids, and all of them are liking it. All of them realize that creating a playlist is quite a time-consuming job, and they would be happy if someone is preparing a playlist and they just need to play the playlist which has been offered by them. Will they pay money for that? Maybe $1, $2. Why not? It's okay. It's loose change. But if you're getting $2 from 5 kids, it's $10. But what if you're getting it from 10,000 kids? It's $20,000. And that's for one playlist. How about you have 10 playlists? Multiply that by 10, and suddenly you realize sharing playlist actually could get you business, could get you revenue, could get you money. Yes, it sounds a lame idea, and I know there are practical challenges. There are lots of companies which are sharing playlist. Who's going to take my playlist? Who am I, man? That's a negative mindset. The positive startup mindset says, try. Maybe it might work, maybe it might not work. But it'll be a learning for you either ways. If it does not work, then you know what does not work. If it works, then you know how much more it can work. How can you spread the idea? So it's a clear expectation from oneself. You start associating meaning or purpose to every activity, and you realize that you're actually spending more time towards more positive activities, more activities which really have any meat in it, and not spending time on activities which really don't have much meaning, right? You don't just watch any television series, right? You watch a specific series where you see your level of interest is high and there is a learning quotient involved. You don't spend time on the ads. You flip the ads forward and move on because you don't want to waste your time watching ads, because There's no merit out of it, right? It's an oriented towards positivity and growth, right? You start looking at meaning. You look at your learning potential, right? Is it adding to your learning potential? Are you learning more? Do you know more now than what you knew in the past, right? It's a guiding and inspirational, right? At young age, you're always looking for new ideas. You're always looking at new ways. What do you want to do in life? What are the various career options like, right? And sometimes by having a startup mindset, by evaluating every activity and every task on the potential of business, you are also strengthening your understanding on what you like and what you don't like, what motivates you and what does not motivate you, right? So if you maintain a simple checklist and always keeping track of what you're liking and what you're not liking, at some point of time you'll be able to build a clear idea in terms of what's your career goal, what do you want to ultimately become, right? So it's guiding, it's inspirational, it's challenging and motivational, right? Why should I share my playlist? What am I getting out of it? Why don't I share my notes? Maybe the notes which I make in class and my friends want those notes. Maybe I'm better at making notes, and maybe I can make create a business around it. People might want to study my notes rather than making their own notes, and that might be a business model as well. So it's challenging, right? You review your notes and say, is my handwriting readable in the first place? Can other students understand what I'm writing? It's more of scribbling rather than writing. Um, Maybe it will motivate you to start writing better. And if you write better, then the others will be able to read that notes of yours and make some meaning out of it, right? It's the demand of corporate. So as I touched upon this topic earlier, even if you want to not be an entrepreneur, you want to work in a company, the company is already expecting you to have a startup mindset. Not that they want you to start a startup, but they say if you have the right mindset, it will be beneficial in the work we are doing. You will start giving more importance to the work you're doing, and when you give more importance, you make sure that you make less mistakes. Less mistakes is more efficient. More efficiency means more productivity. More productivity means the company will have better growth and faster growth. It's the first step towards entrepreneurship. And finally, it's easy. You might be thinking, sir is asking us to do too many tasks. It's actually easy. It's actually simpler. It's just the right mindset, and mindset takes time to build. So please don't be in a rush. Don't wake up tomorrow morning and yes, I'm going to have a startup mindset. Desire is okay, but to actually get to that mindset takes time. You need to take step by step. Talk to your parents, talk to your teachers. They will definitely be able to give you more and more ideas around what's a mindset all about. Why should you have a startup mindset? Probe, ask people, reach out to people, question, question and question, right? So bring up your questions. And I'm done with the presentation bit. I have one final last video to share with you guys, but before that, I would want to check from me here on how are we doing on the questions, and if there are any specific questions which I can answer right now.
Absolutely. So one of our students is asking, how important is it to have a startup mindset? Like, what is the core importance of this?
Great. So, good question. So, see, look, while I've spent 45 minutes saying that startup mindset is important, you need to differentiate between important and must, right? It's important, but it's not a must as of now. But it's important because if you are progressive, right? If you just don't want to be like all the other students in the class, if you want to differentiate yourself, a startup important mindset is a must. If you want to become an entrepreneur at some point of time in life, a startup mindset is a must. If you want to earn more money than others, a startup mindset is a must. If you want to switch careers and you're not sure what you want to do in life, and you're not sure whether what you're doing is right, a startup mindset is a must. So if you want to take control of your life, it's important. If you're happy with the way life is going along, after school you do college, after college you do a job, after one job you do the other job, and finally at some point of time you'll retire. Startup mindset is not important, because you'll flow, right? Because you have certain intellectual capabilities which will just let you progress in life. But you might not be able to jumpstart. You might not be able to become a moonshot. I think that's where the difference comes in.
All right. Thank you for that answer. And there's another question. So the question is how do I explain this? So if you are trying to build a startup mindset as a student, is there any particular uh, tip or some kind of activity that our students can engage in to cultivate this kind of mindset in the long term?
Very good question. It might not come very easily to everyone, right? So I think the first thing is observe. And there's a difference between listening and hearing and observing, right? So I'll take an example. You're sitting in the class and you're listening to the teacher. You hear what the teacher says and you make notes. And then what's observing? You look at the notes and you realize that the teacher is emphasizing on one particular word or repeating one particular word very often. And then you start making out a trend that the teacher is trying to emphasize on that point again and again and again. And then you realize that if that point is or that phrase is what the key factor is, maybe the rest of the lecture will be much more easier for you to understand once you grasp what the teacher is trying to say. Instead of that, if you had just been listening, you would have probably kept listening through the end of the session, and then you would have looked at your notes and you would not have been able to make out something, right? So point number one for startup mindset: observe how things happen, try and question. So second point is question, right? For everything you don't understand, just question. uh, look look for information, go to the library, look up online, ask your father. Anything you don't understand, you should ask question. Never ever leave anything unanswered. Never let any of your questions in your mind go unanswered. That will bring in the startup mindset. So first is observe, second is question, the third one is start. Read and read. There are lots of wonderful books which you can read. In fact, there is a book called Mindset by a lady called Carol Dweck. I would strongly recommend that you should read. There are very good books on startup. Zero to One by Peter Thiel is one. As you grow older, I'm sure you'll come across more books to read. Any of you can reach out to me. Mihir will share my email address. If you are interested in specific books, I can recommend more books to you. So observe, question, read, and finally write. Whatever comes to your mind, you should write. You should frame it, right? Pick up a particular topic and write on that topic. Today we had a session on startup mindset. Write it down. Start asking people about it. Look up online, study more about what are the different type of startups, what are the different type of mindset, who has a startup mindset, who has written an article on startup mindset. You gather all that information and prepare a document of your own. My learnings on startup mindset from the SME session, which I attended on 19th of December. Great article. Share that article. Share it with your friend, share it with your teacher, share it with your parents. Ask for feedback. What can I do better? Do you think this is a great idea? Do you think I have a startup mindset? What do I need to do to have it, right? Let me repeat the points: observe, question, listen, read, and write. As long as you're doing all this, I think you will gradually be able to adopt or embrace a startup mindset.
Well, that was a really, really detailed and insightful answer. Thank you for that, Hetal. And I think you can go ahead and share that video now.
Okay, great. Yeah, and while I'm sharing the video, please think through. Don't stop the questions. Let them keep coming.
I don't care how
Mir, let me know if the video and audio is okay.
Yeah. Just
working toward that dream.
Yep.
I'll do that.
That dream that you're holding in your mind, that it's possible. That some of you already know that it's hard. It's not easy. It's hard changing your life. That in the process of working on your dreams, you are going to incur a lot of disappointment, a lot of failure, a lot of pain. There are moments when you're going to doubt yourself and say, God, why is this happening to me? I'm just trying to take care of my children and my mother. I'm not trying to steal or rob from anybody. Why does this have to happen to me? For those of you that have experienced some hardships, don't give up on your dream. There are rough times are going to come, but they have not come to stay. They have come to pass.
Greatness is not this wonderful, esoteric, elusive, God-like feature that only the special among us will ever taste. It's something that truly exists in all of us.
It's very important for you to believe that you are the one. Most people, they raise a family, they earn a living, and then they die. They stop growing, they stop working on themselves, they stop stretching, they stop pushing themselves. That a lot of people like to complain, but they don't want to do anything about their situation. And most people don't work on their dreams. Why? One is because of fear, the fear of failure. What if things don't work out? And the fear of success. What if they do and I can't handle it? These are not risk takers.
You spend so much time with other people. You spend so much time trying to get people to like you. You know other people more than you know yourself. You studied them. You know about them. You want to hang out like them. You want to be just like them. And you know what? You've invested so much time in them, you don't know who you are. I challenge you to spend time by yourself.
It's necessary that you get the losers out of your life if you want to live your dream. But people who are running toward their dreams, life has a special kind of meaning.
When you become the right person, what you do is you start separating yourself from other people. You begin to have a certain uniqueness. As long as you're following other people, as long as you're being a copycat, you will never, ever be the best copycat in the world. But you will be the best you could be. I'm challenging you to define your value.
That everybody won't see it. That everybody won't join you. That everybody won't have the vision. It's necessary to know that you are an uncommon breed. It's necessary that you align yourself with people and attract people into your business who are hungry, people who are unstoppable and unreasonable, people who are refusing to leave life just as it is and who want more. The people that are living their dream of finding winners to attach themselves to. The people that are living their dreams are the people that know that if it's going to happen, it's up to them.
If you want to be more successful, if you want to have and do stuff you ain't never done before, number two, I'm asking you to invest in you. To invest in you.
Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. That you don't have to go through life being a victim. And even though you face disappointments, you have to know within yourself that I can do this. Even if no one else sees it for me, I must see it for myself.
This is what I believe, and I'm willing to die for it, period.
No matter how bad it is, or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it.
I want to represent an idea. I want to represent possibilities. And some of you right now, you want to be, you know what I'm saying? You want to go to the next level. I want to counsel. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. Listen to me. You can't get to that level. You can't get to the level economically where you want to be until you start investing in your mind. You're not reading books. I'm challenging y'all to go to conferences. I dare you to invest time. I dare you to be alone. I dare you to spend an hour getting to know yourself. when you become who you are, when you become the person that you were created to be, designed to be who you were designed to be, when you become an individual, what you do is you take yourself and you start separating yourself from other people. I'm trying to get to a place where people don't like you, it don't even bother you no more. Why? Because you're not concerned with trying to make them happy, because you're trying to blow up. You're trying to get to the next level. I need you to invest in your mind. Invest in your mind. If you still talk about your dream, if you still talk about your goal, but you have not done anything, just take the first step.
That you can make your parents proud, you can make your school proud, you can touch millions of people's lives, and the world will never be the same again because you came this way. Don't let nobody steal your dream. After we face a rejection and a no, or we have a meeting and no one shows up, or somebody say, you can count on me, and they don't come through. What if we have that kind of attitude? The cause repossessed. Nobody believes in you. You've lost again and again and again. The lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day, and say to yourself, it's not over until I win. You can live your dream.
So I hope the message from the video is well communicated. The intent of sharing this with you was to end on a high note where you can get the message, how you can take your dream forward, and what kind of effort is required for the dream to succeed. More questions, Mihir?
Yeah, we just have one more question. So we asked the students earlier whether you want to do a regular job or have a startup.
Yeah.
So I saw that you briefly described how one can like get started with having a regular job and then like on the side have a startup as well. So that
Right.
you are actually trying to pursue your passion and your dream, which is through the startup, of course. So can this be done at an early age as well, like balancing school and then balancing college responsibilities? I mean, our Moonshot Junior kids are a good example of that. But like, if this had to be put in more practical words and what our students can follow, if they would like to be fully engaged in entrepreneurship and manage their regular life. So if you would have any tips for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think entrepreneurship does not have a minimum age criteria. So at any age that is possible. I think the and getting the mindset is a step one, right? Once you got the right mindset, if your idea is worth making converting into a business, it's very much possible for you in school, whichever grade you are in. You can actually convert that to a business. The quantum of time which you're able to spend will always be a big debate, but you always have weekends, you always have weekday evenings, you always have your summer and winter break, where you can actually spend higher amount of time and actually spend more time building up the business. So you don't have any pressure, right? You don't have a time pressure, you don't have any money pressure, which means that you are actually at the liberty of running the business at whatever pace you want to, right? In winters anyway, you don't run a lemonade stand, you run it only in the summer, right? So it works to your advantage. So I think the answer to your question, yes, it's very much possible to do it in school. But yeah, you need to time it well. You need to take your own sweet time building it up.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer, Hetal. And this was a really, really fantastic and insightful session, Hetal. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure our students enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mihir.
So before we close the session today, I'd like to talk a bit more about the Innovator program. Apart from the STEAM-oriented curriculum in our one-to-one private sessions and classroom sessions, we also offer private and expert sessions, college admissions counseling, and resume writing. We also guide and provide public speaking opportunities. We have already started our video creation series, and we plan on starting a art series and a creative writing series. So be on the lookout for that. And other than these weekend group sessions going on right now, we also have industry expert sessions, one-to-one sessions, and the video making course. So in a nutshell, this is what the Innovator program offers. And again, thank you so much for such a fantastic and brilliant sessions, Hetal. And I'm sure our students would like you to cover more topics in the future going forward. And I, for one, really enjoyed the session, and I'm really intrigued by the answers as well that you gave to our questions that our students asked. So that was really nice. Thank you, students, for coming in today. Thank you for participating, and we will see you tomorrow at the same time for another session. Thank you.
Correct. And just to reiterate, any of you would like to stay in touch, drop me a mail on hetal.s@moonshotjr.com. Would be glad to give you a book recommendation or any other questions you have, even in future.
Yeah, I've shared your email address in the chat. So yeah, students will be getting in touch with you.
Sounds wonderful. Great. Thanks
Perfect.
a lot, kids.
Thank you,
All the best,
everyone.
all of you.
And yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.